Hey guys, welcome to a good enough Smile review. So I just got through watching Smile the movie. And I say good enough because I'm not going to go into full detail like most people do when they do their reviews. I'm just going to give you my honest opinion of this movie and what I rate it. I'm going to tell you right now, I loved it. I loved it a lot due to the fact that it talks about mental health and it touches on a subject that I feel like a lot of people don't really touch on and people don't really fully understand unless you're going through it yourself. And of course, disclaimer, big disclaimer, I will be talking about different subjects, triggering subjects, suicide, mental health illness, and I'm going to tell you right now, I am not a professional. So please don't quote me. This is just an honest movie review of Smile. So, disclaimer, and you have been warned. So, Smile is the main star of the show is Rose. She's a therapist. The movie starts off showing us that she witnessed her mom's suicide, her death. Now, due to this reason, she wants to go in and help people. And then throughout the show, you can tell she handles all different type of mental illness. So eventually she gets this one woman. She watches her professor commit suicide in front of herself. And from there, she's been seeing some type of entity, some type of creature that has a smile upon its face, and it takes different shapes and takes different forms. So, then from there, she slowly starts seeing this smiling entity. So, you see her throughout the movie becoming completely unhinged. She's seeing it everywhere from her home. And eventually you see it to where it affects her marriage, her engagement. And I can tell you right now, I really don't like this dude too much because one thing about being a married person and being married is through thick and thin. And she realized that this guy, basically, he was not capable of really fully understanding of what mental health is and what it endures. One thing people have to understand is mental health is serious. It could be your best friend, your mom, your sister, your coworker, a teacher, a janitor. It's a serious subject that I'm glad that this movie's touching on. And I'm going to say, when I say this is my honest review, the directors probably didn't even think about this possibly. I didn't look up the description because I wanted it to be fresh from my mind right through watching and what I felt this movie was expressing upon me. Because one thing that's unique about movies and games, everyone's not going to have the same opinion or idea of that game or movie. That's what makes it amazing. That's why it's important to have different opinions, different people reviewing the same movie, good or bad. Back to the review. So, during her time unhinging, she eventually relies on Joel. Joel, from what I understand, maybe at one point in time was a potential ex-lover. But you could tell he still has feelings for her because after the woman, her patient, newly patient, committed suicide in front of her, that's why she starts seeing the smiling demon. He came back to check up on her and see how she was doing. And of course she tries to play it off in the beginning to eventually she has to rely on him in the end to kind of figure out what's going on. Because her husband, unfortunately, he did the best thing he can do is try to reach out for help, but she just needed someone to listen. And one thing I can definitely understand at one point is when you're trying to explain to someone it's hard to explain. And I'm not saying that I'm seeing something, you guys, come on now. But sometimes, like, what if something's really severely frustrating and you don't know how to put it in words? So that's what I mean. But mental health is no joke. So during this whole movie, she just came to the conclusion, because after she looked up the information via Joe, he's a police officer, she realized that it kept going on. Trauma, this entity is connected to trauma, and he gets inside and terrorizes one person and allows that one person to commit suicide in front of another to spread the trauma. And I'm going to tell you something about trauma. Trauma comes in many forms. It doesn't necessarily mean a death. It could be abuse. It could be so many things that traumatizes a person. It can even be just normal social interaction, PTSD. It could be, like, for example, let's give it just a rough example. If you are really emotionally, spiritually attached to someone and they do something that you consider unforgivable, it could traumatize you to not trust no one, to be distant and almost, I don't like this person, or you just become very antisocial, and it forms it. You get what I'm trying to say? It changes you. So once again, you guys, I'm not a professional in this, but just going off personal experience and from what I understand of this movie and what I think this movie is trying to say. So please don't quote me and try to think I'm some type of professional. I can't say that enough. I am not a professional. But trauma is real. But that being said, though, she relies on Joe. She figures out that it's connected to trauma. And she even goes to a point of going back and talking to one of the guys that survived it. Yeah, there's a guy that survives it, and he ends up killing someone else, and now it doesn't haunt him anymore. But of course, being the person that Rose is, she's not going to do that. How can you ask someone else to kill someone else? That is hard. So she comes up with this idea at the end. I'm going to be by myself. I can't harm anybody. I can't pass it on. I'll be by myself and face it. And sometimes that's harder than it seems. In the movie, you see that you think that she's winning. She's getting over this entity. She's winning the battle. But and it was interesting too, because the entity was like, you can't escape your mind. You can't escape your mind. And I felt like that point is interesting, and I'm gonna tell you my point in a few seconds about that. And then eventually at the end, you find out that she never escaped it. Joel came to find her and eventually passed on to Joe. So one reason why I love this movie, I really like this movie, it's not one of my favorites, but I love it, I will watch it again, is because escaping your mind when you have mental illness, or if you're just stressed or have high anxiety, is severely hard. And a person that has high anxiety and stresses, and something small could happen, but I can blow it out of proportion really quickly because it hurt my feelings, or how the person said it, or the outcome of the situation. And then it will run in my mind over and over and over and over and over again. And sometimes what people don't understand is the mind can be the death of you. And that's what I think this movie is trying to show. And the entity itself was freaking crazy. Silent Hill-esque kind of creature. The creature was amazing. It was better than Bye Bye Man. And there was some parallels I seen to Bye Bye Man at the end. That's kind of what happened. Tried to happen. She tried to do the exact same thing that happened with the gentleman at the end of the Bye Bye Man. He succeeded, but unfortunately she did not. This movie, I give it definitely a 4.5 star rating, because for years I've been looking for a really good original horror movies that touch on serious things. It doesn't have to be super serious, but something different. And I'm glad some developers, producers are getting the hint that they're. But that being said, you guys definitely check out Smile. I'm definitely going to be looking into a lot of movies now, like It Follows. So many people believe that It Follows is a totally different type of sexual type movie, but I believe it is an entity, but they're trying to show awareness to something else. Now I'm going to rewatch that, and I'm excited about it. But definitely, you guys, thank you for listening to me ramble, but this is a good enough explanation and review of the Smile movie. And also to you guys, understand, just because you're not going through it, and you might be like that guy that she's with and your life is so perfect, but everybody else's life is not. Check on your peoples. Just tell them I love you, and if you hear, even if they're telling you something that's strange, just listen to them. Be there for them. We need to be there, start being there for our loved ones, our friends, our families, sometimes even co-workers. Mental health, mental stress, mental everything is real. I'm glad they're paving the way for it.